I'd like to welcome everybody to the 20th Pakistan Breakfast hosted by Pathfinder and VRG. It is our privilege to welcome His Excellency Prime Minister Kakar. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. First of all, I would like to start with Mirek Dušek, old friend. I'm starting to have a hard time keeping up with your titles, Mirek, but Managing Director, it's been a dizzying rise, and obviously in charge of Eurasia, Europe, and other forum engagement. Mirek, I'd like you to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really a pleasure to be here again. Ikram, Zarrar, Mr. Prime Minister. First of all, I'm informed this is the 20th time that you have this Pakistan breakfast at the annual meeting. So what a great tradition. And also, when I spoke to you, Ikram, before, you have been a partner of the World Economic Forum for over 30 years. So you've been coming here for over 30 years. I'm sure you've seen a lot of change, but really thank you so much for your engagement over the years. Mr. Prime Minister, it's so nice to have you here. We met yesterday at a session that was focusing on geopolitics, and you spoke very eloquently. Thank you for that. I also remember, of course, still that you are dealing with the aftermath of the floods and all the natural phenomena that you had in your country. You have the 4RF plan, and so I am glad that you will be able to also hopefully use the platform of the World Economic Forum here to bring more partners on board from the international community. I also wanted to congratulate Pakistan on the Recharge Pakistan initiative that you launched at COP28. If you allow, I'll just like to say a few words about the overall framework here this year. It's called Rebuilding Trust. We're gathered here under that theme. It is a direct response to the erosion of trust that is frankly evident in societies and among nations. Some would link it to the many deep transformations that we see all around us, be they geo-economic, technological, societal, related to climate and nature. And some would say that those transformations taken together have actually ushered in, if not a completely new era, at least a stark new reality. And so we're putting that front and center here this week at the annual meeting. And we're doing two things in response to that. One, we're going back to the DNA of the World Economic Forum. This has always been a platform for dialogue. Now, you may think that this is trivial. Dialogue is easy. We just have people speak to each other. But you could also argue that the complex geopolitical moment we have right now is actually the result of an underinvestment in dialogue over the past year. So you will see us, and hopefully you are seeing us, making an effort to include the relevant stakeholders within society on issues like energy transition, like trade, like climate, things people disagree on as well. So just trying to make sure that also we provide that space. Also in terms of different generations, very important. And obviously also with regard to how different nations are included in the discussions. But the second part is also important. At least I feel because of the different transformations we've seen, people have been spending a lot of time to just do the diagnosis of what is happening. That's fine, and you will see a lot of the sessions still trying to do that, but it is really important that we move firmly towards solutions, that we are able to open pathways, talk about new models, new policies, new strategies that will actually help people to deal with the new reality that some would say has arrived with all those transformations. So in that respect, I also wanted to mention that we have here a specific initiative which has been going on for some years. It's called the Edison Alliance. It is focused on how do we make sure we digitally include more people worldwide. And again, I wanted to thank Ikram, Pathfinder Group, and through your virtual remittance gateway, VRG, You have been part of this. You have been part of this on behalf of Pakistan. We made a pledge overall globally that we wanted to connect 1 billion people by 2025. And right now, at the beginning of January 2024, we're at 784 million. So we will get there. And you've been a big part of this. And just to say that the specific thing that you're doing here, it's called Asan Mobile Account. It's been tremendously successful. We're very happy that you're part of that initiative and you're helping us make a difference in Pakistan and in the world. With that, again, big thank you to Pathfinder Group and big thank you to you, Mr. Prime Minister, for being here at the annual meeting with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirek. Really appreciate that. And obviously the introduction about Pathfinder and VRG, the Asan mobile account has already been a great success with millions of accounts opened and billions of transactions already there. But I think before I introduce His Excellency to say a few words, I think the theme of Davos this year, rebuilding trust, probably applies to Pakistan as well in a lot of ways. Your government inherited a very difficult situation, a falling GDP, floods born not because of Pakistan's fault, but the climate change that had been wrought upon by other industrialized countries in the world, rising inflation, a stock market that was in turmoil. And, I think what you've done in your brief tenure so far is starting to rebuild that trust in Pakistan again. And you can see that from the response we've had at Davos, at the World Economic Forum. Just this breakfast is a good example. There remains a deep interest in investing in Pakistan. Pakistan, for all our difficulties, and we must be honest about ourselves, we must face up to the challenges and difficulties that we've had. So we don't tell investors an incorrect story about who we are. We should tell them about the pitfalls, but then we should also go and tell us how we are overcoming these challenges, why Pakistan remains a wonderful place to invest as a developing nation, as a nation that is in the right place, connected to the Middle East, connected to Central Asia, connected to various parts. And I think what your government has done has been an admirable job. Rising GDP, the Pakistan Stock Exchange has been rising for the last 5 months. Inflation remains a big question mark, but that is coming under control in various places. Some of it obviously has to do with the oil shocks and the war in Ukraine that has caused a lot of the supply side problems. So again, not Pakistan's fault, but we remain the victims of it. But I think I say it's a privilege to host you, because it's a privilege to host not just you, but members of your government at a forum like this, so that you can tell the Pakistan story effectively, so that people understand why we remain a great place to invest. We should take our challenges. For example, we always lament about our geopolitical sort of geopolitical placement of region. We are surrounded by problems. I think we can turn that around and say, okay, yes, we have issues on both sides of our border. Also there are issues, in terms of the north and so forth. But we can turn it around and say, look, we remain the focal point for various old roads that lead to various different parts of the world. We remain part of that connectivity, as people will tell you. We remain part of that solution. A young population, yes, there are growing concerns about unemployment, but let's turn that around. A population that is under 30 years old is also a market for goods and services, a burgeoning market for goods and services. An investment in education, reform in education, a focus on what we believe, digital financial inclusion, for example. These are the things that will take Pakistan well ahead in the 21st century and get around some of our problems. With that brief introduction, I would like to now welcome the Prime Minister to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled and I'm so grateful to Ikram Saab for his personal involvement and giving me initial introduction to World Economic Forum a few years back when I was relatively less known. And here I was in this breakfast audience a few years back, and I was just thinking about this transformation, what has happened. Ikram Saab has been very generous to me in personal capacity, has always introduced me to different forums, and I've always benefited from his advices and suggestions. So thank you so much, sir. Pakistan, Pakistan's story, Pakistan's storyteller. Pakistan is a great place. I am not just boosting about in the hyper nationalistic tone while I'm saying this. Pakistan is a great country. Why? It has a population of 240 million people at its backyard. The whole of Central Asia lies there, which is landlocked. And of course, it is looking to have connectivity through Pakistan. Midway, yes, Afghanistan is there. And as Iqbal has said, that it is the heart of Asia. So the stability over there does have a spillover effect in the rest of the Asia, along with the North Caucasus and Iran on one side, and then there is a Confucius civilization of 1.5 billion people. So Pakistan, as a member of ECO, which has a 500 million population, Pakistan is ECO's India. It's biggest in terms of its population. Some $36 trillion trade is happening next door in China. And on the right, GCC with all its hydrocarbon exports has transformed its economy and diversified its economy and looking forward to enter into the manufacturing area. So what do they lack? They do have capital. The banks are filled with the money, but they don't know where to put it. As there is a demographic disadvantage. So they have two options: either import the population to their own countries or take the capital to the framework where the right kind of environment is available, the energy, and so on and so forth. Either they import population from India, Bangladesh, or Pakistan, which has, of course, political implications for the Arabian Peninsula. So the preference probably would be that the capital would flow to those countries. So we have to be more competitive, more attractive to facilitate that journey of industrialization over there. Chinese transformation of the journey of its modernization, where they started post 1979, and they have acquired a stage where they are relocating some of its industry. And one, along with the Southeast Asia, destination would be Pakistan, a country which has diversified cultures, ethnic groups, geography. You go to the north of Pakistan, you have 8 to 9 highest peaks in the world. It's a heaven for the people who are interested in mountaineering. Then you have deserts of Thar and plains of Punjab and deserts even in Balochistan. So this is all amalgamation of a different kind of a landscape, which is quite unique that it is offered in one place or in one territory. Pakistan's biggest asset is its human resource. 240 million people, 60% of them under the age of 30. What does that mean? That actually means whole of energy. Energy which needs, of course, a direction. We have got around 1.5 million workforce just in the IT sector. We've been working on its international accreditation also, that a year at least we should produce about 50,000 graduates who would be internationally accredited. Pakistan's governance structure is improving. Yes, of course, we have challenges, but if we can respond to those challenges within 5 months, I'm pretty much sure that any mandated government, which would be in place on 9th of February or by the end of February, would get it as a blueprint that how did we respond in this short stint. And I'm quite sanguine about that, that people are feeling a deep sense of positivity. We brought improvement, and there was a revamp of the taxation structure. The entire structural changes are happening over there, that how do we collect our taxes. So there are two lessons which is take home, and that is spend less on the government and earn more. So effective government, smart government, less government. And we are partners in the business, in the private sector. We have our own stake with the private sector. We would encourage them to make more money, and we'll tax them, take our share of the business from them, and spend it on the social sector. This is the model. This is the model which can work. This is the model which has worked in many parts of the world, and I'm pretty much sure it would work here as well. Pakistan is a story of identity also. We've been viewed as, our journey started probably in 14th August 1947, or to some who have studied Pakistan studies at school, the entry of Muhammad bin Qasim from the Arabian Peninsula is at times referred as a starting point of that identity. I would take it a bit further. I come from Balochistan, where the Mehergarh civilization initiated, and they were the one who provided the early inhabitant to Indus civilization. So Pakistan's identity and its story starts more or less about 9 to 10,000 years ago. And that was the area where the inhabitation started. This identity process, the collective memory of Pakistan, it has so many languages as part of its identity, starting from Sanskrit to Persian, English, local languages which were produced from Saraiki to Pashto, from Brahvi, which is a Dravidian origin language, to Sindhi, from Sindhi to Punjabi. And they all contributed along with the inspiration from the Central Asian languages, the Turkic Mongol origin languages. And it crafted a new lingua franca of Urdu. It expressed itself in poetic terms, it produced drama, art. So Pakistan is not just a story of a specific religion, it's way broader than that. It's way broader than that, and there is a lot of interest. Urdu is one of the biggest languages spoken around the world. It's poetry, the classic. We do not have people of less stature than what Goethe is to the Germans, or Shakespeare to the Englishmen. People like Ghalib and the rest have left a lot of deep mystic impact, and in the manner those expressions have been done. West knows Rumi, but very few knows Ghalib. That is the unfortunate part. We have not been able to showcase him. Though, in my humble opinion, the themes, of course, Rumi is mentor. We are not creating a competition over here, but they were the wine of the same bottle. So more or less with the same sort of taste, the artistic taste. So Pakistan is not just a land where the trade activity would be happening all dry. It has its own ambience. It has its own color. It has different cultures, different languages, different cuisine. Starting from Baloch Saji to Shinwari's Tikka and Kadais are the favorite cuisines which one can experience from one end of the country to another. So Pakistan is a beautiful story. Pakistan is a great story. We need more storytellers like yourself, Ikram Sahib. Thank you so much for inviting me here again. And I hope we will continue with this partnership with the World Economic Forum and Pathfinder Group, and we'll be contributing in future also. Thank you so much.
Maybe purely from, before I turn to Q&A session from the audience, maybe just purely from a investor, and let's call it a foreign investor perspective, a lot of the concerns remain about in Pakistan and the bureaucracy over there and what we are doing to streamline investment in coming in. So I think the less concerns about taxation or subsidies or government support, but more in terms of what protections we can offer investors when they come to Pakistan.
Well, first of all, let's agree that we need to get rid of certain habits of bureaucracy, if not bureaucrats. And you can't live with them, you can't live without them. That sort of a situation is. In the long run, I think so. SIFC is a good initiative. It's a good initiative because all these red tapeism, the challenges which the foreign investors would face were very small and little when we did the analysis. For instance, getting NOC from one department, either from the provinces or from the federal government, and there were multiple agencies who would issue such authorizations. So now what we have done that, and this is again with the statutory support, there is a law behind it. So SIFC is not just an administrative initiative or just not a product of an administrative notification. There is a law behind it, and that strengthens it. And now you have this one window opportunity where a foreign investor can approach its executive committee and get all things done within no span of time, sometime even less than a week, and ball gets rolling, and they are actually on the ground where they want to do their basic work. So we may have some added and an improvement version to this forum, but it's a great place to start with.
I would like to open it up to the audience now.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having us, the Pathfinder Group. And hello and Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Prime Minister. Thank you so much for the wonderful talk. My name is Khushbakht. I am a lawyer from Pakistan. I'm specifically based in Karachi. I have been working in the sector for the last 6 years, specifically on gender-based violence. I'm here as part of the Global Shapers Community delegation, and I'm the only girl representing Pakistan right now. Global Shapers Community is a community of 10,000 young people under the age of 30, and it's an initiative of the World Economic Forum. So that was my introduction. My question to you, Mr. Prime Minister, is that there's been enough talk about the investment, the trade, which is all important. And I will have two questions with regards to that. One is, being a young woman, and unfortunately there was no mention of women's future in Pakistan. So my question to you is, what do you see, what is the future of women in Pakistan? Because in my line of work, I feel and I believe, and the stats speak for itself as well, that there is an epidemic of violence and murders against women. That's one question. The second question, my question to you, Mr. Prime Minister, is you mentioned that young people are an asset, which is absolutely correct. We are 65% of the population. What do you have to say about the 500,000 people who left the country because there were no economic opportunities or generally just living conditions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me respond to the second one first. I've been trying to explain about this movement of people from point A to point B, and in this specific case, from Pakistan to the rest of the world. I do not view it as a negative happening. For me, this movement, what actually is economy, we keep on telling people, or we keep on hearing that it's about goods and services, goods and services. So the movement of these people, I take them as a supply chain in terms of services. So they're not vanishing from the planet. They're going from one point to another. And the case and study was classic during the 60s of India. People were saying in those days that there is a brain drain in India. They went towards the Western Hemisphere, they got settled there, and next 30, 40 years, they transformed into brain assets. And then they returned with their expertise and capital, whatever they acquired on Western Hemisphere, and contributed back to their economy. So this transformation, if it is viewed in a with a political connotation, I think so that is skewed, that is distorted. It's a very natural phenomenon. People were always coming and going to the other parts of the country from Pakistan. This is not unique that it has started in last 1 year or 7 months or 1.5 years. What about 1.67 million Pakistanis residing in UK have they left in during last 1 month? So it means that there has always been a pattern. People from Algeria settled in France, people from Turkey settled in Germany, and in a sizable manner. So we should not view the migration, the legal migration from our country to the rest of the world. Rather, it should be encouraged. It grows, it contributes into your overall economic structure. Your contribution in remittances increases. So they are eventually our assets, no matter where they go. We should not be disconnected with them. We should not disown them. There should be a dialogue and conversation with the people, the diaspora. And that aspect, I think, so is more important rather than showing a concern that how people or why people are going. The people should remain connected. And there are third generation people in diaspora who are still connected. In the case of Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and a few other countries. So that sense of nationalism, how do you cater for when you are a foreign resident in another area is part of the challenge. That should be a point of concern, and we should have dialogue and conversation on those topics, that how can we keep them engaged in a constructive and positive manner, which is a win-win situation, a beneficial situation to both the parties. So as they would be growing and their outlook towards modernism, towards life would be altogether at times, which is being offered back home. How to reconcile between the two? How do you, there are many social challenges related to that. So those are the themes I think so is more important to my heart rather than being concerned about that people have left just in 5 or 6 months or 1 year. Well, the first question, वजूद ज़न से है कायनात में रंग, this is what our mentor, our founding father, in a sense of ideologically, Iqbal, who envisioned, which we believe, this entire reality of Pakistan. Who could, any decent soul coming from any faith, any culture, any background, any ethnicity, deny the role of a proper placement of women in society? He or she can be just insane. No sane individual can deny that. The challenge is, and yes, we have to retreat our commitment towards the gender balance and the issues related to that. But the central placement of women in your social life, in your political life, in your economic life, in your personal life, I would again say I haven't seen a saner person who has been. Yes, there are issues of attitudes, psychological, at a personal level, at a societal level, sometimes even at cultural level, at legal level. And they are being responded during pharaohs, Egyptian time, the most influential people in that society it's women. And this was one of the reasons that Moses was guided towards Asia, because Asia, in that social framework, she could influence the pharaoh to change his mind. So human history has seen different sort of things, sometimes very promising for women and sometimes not that promising for women. When did the same Switzerland in which we are having this dialogue got its right to vote for women? Probably somewhere in 70s. I hear that after 1971. So you're not doing that bad. We've been voting probably prior to the Western Hemisphere. So that comes to the political rights. Violence is a very serious issue against the women. As you know, we do not have parliament at the moment. So if there are lacunas in the law, we won't be able to cater for that. But as far as the administrative response is concerned, I can assure you, till my last hour, if we receive any sort of report, that would be responded very firmly, because it's not that just we don't believe in it, we hate it. My personal inspiration in my life is my sister. I haven't seen more honest individual than her. I always take her as a role model. She died at the age of 35. And I keep referring to her whenever I have public conversations. I'm proud of her. She's my pride. She's in the grave, but I'm still remembering her. I'm not talking about my father. I'm talking about my sister. She was the one who gave me the real inspirations to know and appreciate ethos, values. And I would be surprised at the time that how come she at such a young age think about these things and encourages people, confronts people, including myself, to stay on the right course in life. And that of sort of the strength of the character I haven't seen in many men in my family. So inspirational characters everywhere in the society. I dedicate your question to my late sister, and I can assure you that there are many people in that country, and they are in majority, who believe in women's placement as a nucleus, as a central role in the society. Yes, we have cultural nuances, we have shades. The choice of attire at times becomes a question for women's liberty. In my humble opinion, it's about women's choice rather than her attire. It's for her to choose what to wear. Sometime a liberal attire, sometime not that liberal attire. Why are we being critical in either way if we have to genuinely respect the choice of women? So let all these queries, these challenges be mostly responded, and it should get participation, effective participation by the women herself. And they should be the one to steer it, to guide us, to navigate and tell us. And we should be patiently listening to them. We should be good listeners rather than telling them what to do. So tell us, guide us, and you would be one of the important participant in this entire discourse. Thank you.
My name is Asif Yusuf. I'm living in the UK for over 20 years, and I'm running one of the largest businesses owned by Pathfinder region. My question to you is regards to the investment you talked about, SIFC. So what is SIFC offering different to the previous? Because in the past we saw that overseas Pakistani has invested in Pakistan, and we had to show sometimes losses due to the exchange rate and the policy change. So what is the guarantees for the overseas Pakistani investors that we will not be, changing, we will not see the changing in the, the system in Pakistan, or, the different, problems that we are facing with regards to the, exchange rate losses and all the other issues. So what is different SIFC is offering now?
Thank you. Well, let me respond to the aspect of the currency rate. That is being determined by the market forces. We are not interfering in the currency rate. What we have done, and which impacted the currency rate in last 4 or 5 months, we actually enforced law. That's it. And what was the law? The law was that you did not allow illegal currency trade to happen. And that's what exactly was happening over there. So once we did the enforcement part, the aggregate demand for the illegal currency went down, and the value of the rupee got appreciated. So this was the simple mechanism and phenomena of the market over there. For the overseas Pakistanis, what we can assure or what it is different, the SIFC is being anchored along with the other institutions where the entire federal cabinet is part of it. It is run by the prime minister of the country. The military as an institution is anchoring that too. So as an organized entity, as an entity which has more organizational capacity to intervene in different areas, be it disaster management or few other areas, we have taken the benefit of those expertise to push and facilitate and gives a sense of protection to all the foreign investors, and get a communication line and channel with the rest of the government entities. That actually, in my opinion, would ensure the continuation, that would ensure the ongoing process, and that in itself, when it is translated in time, would give more confidence to the foreign investors, particularly to the diaspora.
Sir, my name is Adil Mansoor. I may remind you again. I am manufacturer of car parts and tractor parts and automotive parts in Pakistan. I make for Pakistani companies and also export it to USA. Though we are suffering a lot because of the shortage of currency and non-opening of LC by State Bank, and nearly more than 2 million people have been rendered jobless. But anyhow, my question is not about that. I am saying that I take the line from you that Pakistanis living abroad are greatest assets. Sir, our export are much less than their remittances, and we call them our assets. But in your tenure, will you be able to give them voting right? That's my only question.
No,
Okay.
because I can't.
No, but
Try.
you
Okay.
can try.
No, even I can't try.
Sir, this in 5 months you have done each and everything which a normal prime
My
minister do.
my honorable dear sir, that requires legislation, and there is no parliament, so I can't.
I'm coming to the question that the regime will come and they will get a playbook of what to do and what to continue. If you can share a couple of those things that, what would be different, because you cannot change the past, we can only be forward looking. So what are those important salient features that you put there for the next regime to continue and assure all of us that yes, forward looking future is brighter than, and we're not going to repeat the mistakes of the past. And a little continuation of that, again, strengthening of Pakistan, we talk about SIFC. Some of the concerns or the apprehensions could be that, these initiatives are good, but they could be a patch on a patch on a patch. How do we ensure that, the institutions don't get weaker with these, but they get stronger with these in future?
Thank you. Well, few things I think if we get the next government convinced to continue doing that, and that is spending less on the government. The state-owned entities, we need to gradually get rid of those. Privatization is our top priority. We need to privatize like PIA. A government has no business to do business. Let the business be done by the business people, by the private sector. So wherever interventions we are having and we are trying to subsidize all those non-functional entities, we need to gradually get out of that. For instance, PIA, there is an opportunity for a steel mill. We are encouraging those resources which they already have to be converted into the special economic zones, which would help them do the industrialization. And when it comes to the industrialization, we do not want a new real estate business where you just invest in the land as a value. And as far as the other part of the manufacturing element is concerned, it is underinvested. You don't have the modern machines, you don't have the rest of the infrastructure, and you pay 1 billion rupees for an industrial plot. That is one of the wrong models which we have identified has affected our industrialization process deeply. Reforming tax men and the culture around that is foremost. It's of the utmost primacy. If we do not have that structural changes in our FBR entity, I don't think so we can survive with the current practices we have. For instance, we have got a target of 21,000 billion rupees that we should receive as our tax revenue, and our receivables are around 7,000 billion rupees. So there is a gap of 14,000 billion rupees. Who's going to fill that? We're going to borrow more. And then there is a non-documented economy, which is, by the way, almost 80%. So 20%, you are having a receivable of 7,000 billion rupees. And then there is a gap of 14,000 billion rupees from there. And still, we are arguing about political rights, which we should. But the political rights are translated by economic contribution. No taxation with no representation without taxation. Where was that slogan coming from? That initiation of the decolonization was based around economy, about its economic role. So yes, we should ensure our political rights, but prior to that, we should fulfill our economic responsibilities. No one is willing to contribute towards the tax network, and everyone wants the services of the Scandinavian countries. It's hard to achieve. How would you do it? I mean, I keep hearing people saying that, oh, we will subsidize this and we will subsidize that. It's all about the habit of spending. Where is the earning part? Yeah, I know it's quite romantic to tell people that I would be spending on the social sector, I would be subsidizing the health services, I would issue this card or that, whatever. But where would I make that money to spend on these things? No one knows. No one is interested to talk about. So these are few areas which I think, so if it is focused, I'm pretty much sure the rationalization of taxation, the people who are already, it's such a regressive system of taxation, the legitimate people who are paying taxes, we are squeezing them more. Usko chutti na mili jisko sabak yaad hua. So what do you do with that? This can't survive for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I would introduce Ikram Sehgal. I needs no introduction. To his friends, he's the Pakistani claw shop, but I will give him the floor now.
The thing I like to thank a lot of people. But first of all, I'd like to thank my family for supporting me all this time. 30 years is a long time. Spending your own money. The family always think they should be spent on themselves rather than everybody else. In the meantime, the other one I want to thank is my staff. 2 CEOs of the companies, major companies here, which the Edison Alliance is sort of boasted like that. Both the company CEOs are here. They were working with their hands. Can Alisha stand up, and Salman? Salman. and a lot of people. So I want to say that there's no dearth of Pakistani expertise. There's no dearth of Pakistani talent, right? And I want to make, because a lot of comments come on the SIFC, I was a bit skeptical. This is the first I went many years ago to Jan Musharraf and tried to convince him to do something, and he said, no, we've got democracy and we can't engage. And, when this SIFC started, I was a little bit skeptical. But now I think there is something, an instrument of success that can be used, right? Because you have the right people, you've got the right attitude, and to cut across red tape, which Azim Mansoor Saab was talking about, right? And we need people to come on and be like that. So before I didn't, thank you everybody, thanks for being here. I'd just like first the family to come up for a quick photograph, quickly. Yeah, I know he's got to go. Quick photograph. And then my staff to please come up.